I am Shruti Fosdar. I'm part of the Shiksha Lokam programs team. I work as a solution design lead here. And I've been with Shiksha Lokam for 2 years. Prior to this, I was a Teach for India fellow, and then I did my MA in education from Azim Premji University. And my entire academic and professional journey has been in the field of education. And uh, that is one of the reasons why I'm really, really excited to have this conversation with you. Uh, that is one of the reasons. Another reason is because I've been personally involved with Nagaland's journey, and through Mantra for Change, our partner, we've also been involved in Bihar's journey. Uh, and I have also personally met both of you a few times. So, that is another reason for me being excited. Uh, with your permission now, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you both as well. Uh, Thavaselan sir, you are an engineering graduate. You are an alumni of the prestigious IIM Ahmedabad, and you joined Indian Administrative Service as a batch of 2012. They worked with United Stocks Exchange of India, JP Capital, and even before you joined the Indian Administrative Service. You have had almost a decade-long experience in public service now, and you've led many different initiatives in the field of education, health, for the state of Nagaland. You are currently serving as the Principal Director for Department of School Education, Nagaland. And in your current role, you have been leading the state's Nectar Lighthouse project, which is the World Bank project, leading school transformation, curricular reforms, some of very innovative ideas such as teacher attendance monitoring system and the performance incentive grant for schools. Under your leadership, Nagaland was also one of the top 5 performing states in Vidyamrit Mahotsav, a festival of innovative pedagogy that was organized by NCERT. Uh, Sajjan sir, you are also an engineering graduate and an IS officer. You joined Indian Administrative Service as a batch of 2015. You are currently serving as the director of State Council of Education Research and Training, which is SCERT Department of Education, Bihar. Uh, you are committed to education and public service, and your role as the director of SCERT Bihar has been very, very significant for the state. Under your visionary leadership, SCERT has conducted trainings for approximately 290,000 teachers. Under Vidyamrit Mahotsav, almost 70,000 schools submitted their innovations, and you have led many other initiatives, and you are currently leading those initiatives in the field of curriculum development, teacher training programs, leadership development programs, to name a few, for the public education system in Bihar. With this introduction, I formally welcome you to this conversation. We are here to talk about how both the states of Bihar and Nagaland have led different micro improvement initiatives, and how your role, and you both of you have been the pioneers of this approach in your respective states. Um, I have a few questions that I've prepared to guide the conversation. However, would like to keep the conversation extremely organic and free flowing, and would love to hear your experiences and your stories of change that you have seen that would enrich our work. We would begin. Uh, Sajjan sir, Bihar has approximately 75,000 schools, and that the number of it is so huge that it brings with it different complexities of scale and whatnot. Would like to understand from you, what is your vision for the state and what are the current priorities?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this meet. I've been here in education department for a little more than just 1.5 years. In general, Bihar education system is considered a little bit in the lower ranked than other states. There are so many systemic issues which is part of the system, which has been accumulated over the years. And unfortunately, the public's view and public's opinion of the Bihar education system isn't that great. People still prefer more moving towards private instead of schooling, or private coaching institutions to educate their children. So coming back to the question, where the major issues that I feel that we need to focus more. See, there are like you said, it has to be through micro improvement. It cannot be done in a one shot. There is no one-stop solution, one magic wand to make all the problems go away. So for Bihar's point of view, the main issue being that the teachers which have been recruited, uh, actually there was until 3 months ago there were only 4 lakh teachers in our system. As of date, there are almost 5.5 to 5.7 lakh teachers. So a huge chunk of new teachers have come. But the majority of the 4 lakh teachers were, the recruitment, the way they were recruited wasn't based exactly on completely meritorious. The best of the best who had the passion into teaching and education were not actually being brought into the system to become teachers of our future. To teach the children to make a future leaders. Unfortunately, there was a system where the three-tier panchayati raj system became the neogenikai. So that is, so we can expect little a drop in quality. As expected, there has been a drop in quality, we can say a little bit confidently. But the thing is that we have to work with what we have. We cannot wipe the slate clean. We are not. We are a democracy. So given that, from that point, from working from there, our objective is as SCERT and being in control of all the teacher education institutions across the field. So we have decided to train the teachers, proper residential training, giving them all the latest updates of what is going on, what are the conversations that are going on in the Ministry of Education and across other good practices of other states, good practices of our own state, Bihar. So we are stressing these things into them, the latest pedagogical practices, latest curriculum, more about practical implementation of NEP, more of a practical aspect of NEP rather than just a theoretical document. How exactly can they use that this policy in a day-to-day transaction and classes? They're making them revising them on the current textbooks and even revising our own textbooks. Correcting the errors which have already been into this system long back, correcting those errors, revise textbooks. So basically, we want to develop their confidence, their motivation to towards towards once upon a time teaching used to be one of the most respected profession, but this now it has become a profession where it is the profession that is you've been stuck with if you are once all the other opportunities have been lost. So that is the way our society has developed, but that we can't do much about it. But still, and all is not lost. So we focus on training. This is point one, training of teachers. Then our own SCERT, we are planning to strengthen. We are currently work is going on to reorganize SCERT in a more in a more practical way. Like for example, the NCT's regulation 2021 suggests we have to go towards 4-year courses called ITEP, those integrated teacher education programs. So those program is planned to develop future teachers who are more holistic in their development in their during the course, so more holistic course. So we keeping that in mind, and keeping NEP and NCF in mind. So we want to reorganize SCF. So point number 2. Once we do that, once we get to this, once we're keeping this ICATP readiness in mind, so we'll be even more in a better position once for the future of SCERT. We want to, by the time I leave or by the time maybe anybody who's going to take up my seat after this, for me, if we given a little more hard work, and maybe our next 15-20 years is assured to have a more stronger SCERT, and not as SCERT, even diets. Here we have 4 types of teacher institution, not just diets. Diets is just one of them. We also have bites. Of course, bites it caters to a more minority and that kind of localities. Then there is PTEC, primary teacher education colleges, and then there is also which is a colleges of teacher education, which gives BEd and a 2-year BEd and MAd. So these institutions are also now full-fledged. They have gone into training of teachers, training so many a large number of teachers, and this is the SCERT's part. This is the human resource, the manpower development. Of course, it's equally important to develop the infrastructure also, which is even more capital intensive exercise, but that is also currently under our ACS initiatives. It is being done in a very mission focused way, mission mode way. In across schools, we are trying to strengthen the infrastructure. So that is good. So it increases the confidence of parents to send their children to the government schools itself, even if even if they are not exactly in par with the private, at least to some extent we can uh, replicate as much as possible. And last most important thing, my priority is to stop the learning loss which is happening across all grades. It is not necessarily it started only in 2020. It has been happening across years where students are passed without proper assessment at for class 5 and class 8 and even in other classes. So there is no sure way of knowing proper systematic or nobody can be confidently say that my school all students have learned everything that is required in this class before moving on, before being promoted to the next, which is required from them. So nobody is focusing on this quality aspect of education. So this learning loss has to stop, as this is one of our priorities. And of course, we have to. This can only be done with regular assessment. Even now, assessment is going on, but there is no point unless there is a way of getting this data and doing something about it. So I feel like these are the priority. There are many more, but I feel that if there is something at top of my mind, top of my head, if I have to just put out before everyone, I guess these are the priorities.
So I think you very clearly what was evident in what you are saying is that teachers are the key drivers of everything that we want to drive. And at all levels, we have to ensure how teachers' capacity is being built in curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. So that I think holds very, very true. It will definitely hold true for Nagaland as well. And you also established how all the approaches, even though Bihar is a huge state in terms of numbers of schools, it's still going to have a micro improvement level changes, smaller changes and steps that you'll have to take. Uh, Moving on to Thavaselan sir. Sir, Nagaland, even though number of schools might look very less compared to Bihar, the challenge of diversity or the amount of diversity that exists, there are almost 16 to 17 tribes, linguistic diversity, and there's obviously topographical difficulties as well in your state. So how do you envision education for your state, and what are the current priorities?
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Shruti, and the entire Shiksha Lokam team for having me, and pleasure to meet you, Sajjan Bari, in this webinar. So, a lot of things that Sajjan shared hold true for Nagaland. I mean, pretty much any state in the country. So for us, one of the problems that we've been sort of having is the quality of education that's being delivered in the government schools. Unfortunately, Nagaland is one of those states where you have a larger proportion of students in private schools than government schools. So there's something eventually, there's a trend that we'd want to reverse. That would be the ideal end goal. But then there are a lot of things that we'll have to do along the way in order to ensure that this happens. So at this point in time, there are at least 5 pillars that we're sort of working with. There could be more. We could drop some, add some going into the future. But then at this point in time, there are 5 priorities. First is the foundational literacy and numeracy, because unless and until you give kids a sound foundation, there's not much that you can do at a later point in time to reverse the situation. So no number of interventions at a later point in time. Well, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to sort of get the child back on track. So ensuring a very strong foundation is the key to everything that we want to do. The second is bridging the gap. Again, this goes to what Sajjan said. Bridging the gap between what is needed and what is currently there, both in terms of physical, infrastructure as well as digital infrastructure. So there are massive gaps on both. Some of the schools that have been built in Nagaland are still, I mean, they're running out of buildings that were built in the 60s and 70s. That's something that we're not very comfortable with. We were trying to, I mean, Nagaland as a state doesn't have too many resources of its own. So we are dependent on the central government and whatever share of the state government's resources that the department gets. So we've been trying our best to bridge this gap, but then there's still a long way to go. So that's a second priority area. The third priority area for us is a mixture of pedagogical assessment and pedagogical curricular and assessment reforms. So we're working, under Nectar, we are addressing some of these issues. We're working with a lot of partners like yours, several of foundations, several non-governmental organizations who are helping us manage on the so if you look at the World Bank project Nectar, it focuses a lot on assessment as well as pedagogical reforms. The curricular reforms, we're working with organizations to sort of introduce new curriculum. I mean, for example, Dream a Dream is one organization that we work with. We're trying to have a version of what they call the happiness curriculum in New Delhi, which they had worked with the New Delhi government. So that's something that we're exploring. Another thing that we're exploring is also developing and inculcating an entrepreneurship mindset curriculum, something that helps kids develop the mind of entrepreneurs and solve problems and become job creators rather than, someone who seeks a job. So that's another thing that we're looking at. So the third pillar is pedagogical, curricular and assessment reforms. The fourth pillar is inclusive education. There's no limit to how much you can do when it comes to kids who are differently able. I mean, there's plenty that needs to be done, plenty that has already been done, but there's far more that needs to be done. Eventually, we want to give our kids who are differently able the same opportunities as any kid who is not differently abled. And the final piece would be a stress on vocational education because, Nagaland, we don't have a private sector isn't thriving, so we don't have too many job opportunities in the private sector. Most of them are dependent on the government sector for jobs, but the government is sort of saturated. So almost 60-70% of a budget goes in terms of payments of salaries and pensions. So that's something that's an alarming number. So the government is not in a position to take in any more people. So that's precisely why students will have to students who finish they graduate in the future will have to necessarily look at starting up on their own rather than just looking towards the government for a job. So that's another focus area. So to sum up, I mean, these would be our 5 pillars, and I mean, to sum it up, it would be, I mean, give any kid in any part of Nagaland the same opportunities as any kid anywhere in the world, not just in the northeast or the country at large. Yeah, but that's broadly what we're looking at.
True, sir. I think how you were articulating the priorities of the state was coming out very clearly, how the state is definitely looking at including every single child so that no child left behind. That motto that exists, I think that holds true for both your states, definitely. I have a very personal question here. I've been very curious to understand how both of you see the role of leadership or the roles that you are currently playing in achieving these priorities. So if you could share something around that.
Leadership in the sense here, being a director of a particular directorate working under a huge department, a lot depends upon we can be more, I mean, leadership is one thing, but we can be more effective only if there is good support from the from above. So from my ACS to the minister in charge of the department. So when they are supportive, our jobs get even easier. So which I have been fortunate enough to get this support since I've been here. I have been through 2 additional chief secretaries, so each have their own flamboyant style of functioning at different tenor. So I had got to learn a lot from them through their leadership and vast experience which they have had to offer. So my leadership is just more of a reflection of what they they wish to see their vision, which more. And I got the feeling once I got into this department, like most of my vision, my priorities are in line. Many of them is in line with their vision statement and their what they require. Given my short experience which I've had in my field and what I've been seeing, so I was able to having good teams with us, CSOs working with us, like Mantra for Change, for example, who have the team. If they are young and if they are energetic and dynamic, it really helps me perform my job better. And one thing I've noticed, being a good leader, our vision is clear. If our requirements, if we are we're able to put forward it in a very clear and in a simple manner, non-complex manner. So we have it kind of, those kind of ideas attract the best out of the among us, those who are working subordinate to us or with us. So we're able to get good ideas from all quarters. And I'm open to I'm always like more of, I like to get things done as soon as possible. Don't like to sit on any file. Don't like to discuss too much about like all brakes and no engine type model, which shouldn't. That is one of the problems, which is infested a system. So this is something I've even learned from my seniors in many ways. So it requires a lot of knowledge in the working administrative knowledge. I myself am learning a lot as we speak. It's a vast area to do it and then to implement. So that would not have been possible unless I have had support from my. So my leadership is basically, as I'm repeating, I'm just reflective of what my seniors have wanted. So that has really helped us. Thank you.
So I think I agree with Sajjan, in terms of having the buy-in from the people at large, people above you, because, you may be the head of department, but then there's also someone above you whose vision would also shape to a major extent the path that the department takes. But then having said that, I've been fortunate enough to have very understanding seniors, both my boss as well as my minister, very understanding people. That then once you give them reason it out clearly, there's someone who would sort of rally behind you and support you. Another aspect of getting things done in any department for that matter is the time that's available with you in the department. So you might get started with something, but then our tenures in the IAs and in a certain position are notorious for not being so long. So to actually take something to fruition and then finishing it off, you don't always get that opportunity. The person who comes after you may or may not share your vision and take it to its natural progression. But then the best that you can do is sort of set the broader vision, set the wheel rolling, the various moving parts, get them moving, and then hope for the best. So that's that. And your position sort of gives you the vantage point of seeing things from a hilltop in a certain sense. So that gives you clear clarity on where exactly would the interventions be needed, and what sort of interventions you can do, because you also have the power to sort of push important things. So that's broadly that. So yeah. So yes, Mashruti, that's the response to your question.
Yeah, I think that response is very, very helpful for a person like me who's working with state departments across the country. So both of you were also talking about how you have been working with CSOs and different non-profits. Just wanted to understand how you look at these partnerships. Like, what are these organizations bringing to the state department that is of value, and how do you, in your positions, see that value?
I think all the organizations have had a tremendous value for us, and we're incredibly grateful. I mean, the kind of work that Shiksha Lokam we've been doing with Shiksha Lokam, I'm thankful the day that I dropped into the Mantra for Change office and we signed a formal MOU. The kind of kind of the whole micro improvements approach that we've been adopting, the kind of success story that we've had, is just incredible. So I think there is, so when you look at the government, there's not a lot of time. I mean, you sort of get engaged in a lot of work that's sort of run of the mill, and you don't have time to sit and think about what else can be done. And though you have a certain vision, you may not always have the resources or the expertise at hand to get things done. That's where organizations like Shiksha Lokam come in and fill in the gap, an extremely important gap. I mean, they bring in knowledge, expertise, and since you're working with governments across the state, bringing in best practices from different states and getting it implemented, and seeing the results come through is something that's phenomenal. So I think, I mean, there's a trend that's only going to improve with time, with more and more governments engaging with organizations to sort of solve their unique challenges with expertise from outside. And that's something that's being seen across not just the state government but also in the central government, and it's only likely to increase with time. And there's something that's very healthy, and we're incredibly grateful to all our partners.
Yes, sir. As Sir has very fluidly put the issue which even we face as being the government inertia in the system, uh, latest developments, latest technologies. I mean, even people who are working in the system as lecturers or professors or joint directors, academic, even though they are PhD holders and they are net qualified, many are young also, but they hardly, get the time or they to, to expand their preset, mind space. But this is where I think all governments now are no longer have this insider outsider type of mindset. They try to get in expertise consultants in the way of consultants, because even the budget head also has been opened like Sanvida Sevai. So we have this. So basically having a the government has is giving freedom to all, and more budget is being allocated in this particular head, meaning that we do have the government does encourage all departments, especially education, health, to get outside consultants, outside services. Let it be even from data entry operator to a project manager, management unit consultant, specializes in who has a variety of management and project experience. So this is something that will always lack the government end, because always compare a private and public sector. This sector, the private will always tends to be so a few steps ahead of the government, mainly because of the market forces. That is how market force drives them. That is a requirement to survive. To survival, they have to be fit enough to survive, and so that is why they are up with the times. But government is not does not follow Darwin's laws. So it doesn't matter how we can still exist, and our existence is more important than uh, growth. So that as long as this is there, the symbiotic relationship between the CSOs, like mantra for change. Even I just want to add that mantra. We extended their and the MOU for one more year with them. It's basically because of this team. They have always been at hand. Like any availability is very important. Whenever we suddenly we get some sort of priorities or the other, which is sometimes imposed on us. So, and to meet the quick deadlines, we required expertise who can provide immediate information, data. Like for example, my ACS all of a sudden, to just quote a small anecdote, he suddenly called me up last week before, and asked me what is the school timings and the teachers timings in other states. So I want this information provided to me by the very next day. So either I had to open my phone and call up every director in other institutes, and if I do it myself, or I can give this task to a couple of my own lecturers here, or I just give this send this request to Saurabh from Mantra, and he within 2 days he delivered this, and my ACS was quite happy with it. It actually, he wanted this to we were put up for policy before the government to increase the number of schooling hours in our own schools in Bihar. So the this to meet very unrealistic deadlines, and to meet that with accuracy of information, to you know to be satisfied with what we are doing, we definitely require help from the CSOs. But at the same time, there are also some CSOs that have become too bureaucratic. They themselves have formed a government by themselves. They have bosses and multiple levels of approvals, and so not saying that no organization shouldn't grow to that level. It is important to always grow. Everybody does have ambition, but it should always be kept in mind. Whoever is heading that particular organization in the state, they are required to be more realistic, more hands on the ground approach, more more and more sensitive to the needs of the government, and for that they need to work on lessening the bureaucratic nature of their working. So it all depends. CSO, there are good CSOs, there are bad CSOs, there are CSOs who just, for them, just budget is everything, expenditure is everything, outcome is not much. For them, they can easily do that actually, even without much planning, with just have a annual work plan and make sure that all the expenditure is done for their year. So that is enough, I guess, for some of them. But that those aren't really the kind of people who will actually help the government, or not actually. It's not really helping anyone except themselves. So yes, organized civil service organizations, NGOs. It depends on their constitution, their work culture, their head, whoever is heading them. So it can be a great experience or a bad experience.
Thank you, both of you, for sharing your thoughts very, very candidly. I think this is a learning for us as well. And as both of you rightly pointed out, that in achieving states' priorities, CSOs have to play that role of aligning to the vision of the state, and that is when that relationship becomes symbiotic and helps every child and every other stakeholder in the country, in your respective states, as well as in the country. I was also wondering how both of you have actually sort of used the micro improvement approach in meeting some of those priorities of your respective states. Thavaselan, so for example, you mentioned that FLN is one of those priority areas, and the state has been using micro improvement approach for in the domain of foundational literacy and numeracy. So wanted to understand why. What is your personal why for that approach? Why do you feel so why that approach? And secondly, how has the state used the approach in FLN?
Sure, Ms. Shruti. So a couple of things. So one, as to why the micro improvement approach. So I think the fundamental design of the micro improvement approach is what sort of fascinated us to begin with. The fact that with whatever is available, whatever situation the school is in, whatever resources that are available at hand, the teachers and the school authorities, could be folks in the SMC, SMDC, could be folks from the community. What is it that they can do to improve outcomes, learning outcomes? Because eventually everything that we're doing is geared towards ensuring learning outcomes. So what is it that you can do with wherever you are and with the resources that you have? There's still a lot that can be done. It's just that this approach sort of has driven us to start thinking about what is possible. Even even say a couple of years back, I mean, when this approach may not have been sort of widespread, people, some of them, the teachers might be doing what we've now sort of designated as or come to call as micro improvements approach. But then now this sort of, it gives, as soon as you use the term micro improvements, there's a lot more clarity on what is it and how do you sort of use it to bring about changes. So and there's no such thing as, I mean, so given the complexity, I mean, you look at Bihar, we have 75,000 schools, we have about 2,000 schools, so there's 38 times more schools. So every system has its own set of challenges. How do you come up with a tailor-made solution to solve your problems in your own context is at the base of what the micro improvement approach is. So something that makes a lot of sense. In terms of how we've been doing it, so I'll give you a couple of examples. One is in 2022, we launched the Nagaland Reading Festival thanks to all of you guys at Shiksha Lokam. Special thanks to call out to Ms. Shruti, Mr. Vinay, who is not here with us today, Mr. Santosh, Ms. Kushbu, Mr. Neeraj. So the Nagaland Reading Festival, which we launched on Teachers' Day 2022, was to help teachers and the school authorities use what was available to improve reading outcomes for the kids. Help them inculcate a sense of, inculcate the habit of reading regularly and to improve their reading skills. We had taken over 3 months to implement the project, and it was completely on the Diksha portal, where teachers had to come up with solutions to improve or inculcate interest in reading in the children. So we conducted activities. There were games, there were read alouds, there were vocabulary exercises. So all the districts uploaded district level projects on the Diksha portal. And, we'd chosen the best ones from the district. And then further at the state level, the top ones were shortlisted. We had about 1,045 projects which were submitted, out of which 15 were chosen at the best, were shortlisted at the state level. So in 2023, what we did was we took it a notch further, again with the help of Shiksha Lokam. We had the Nagaland Literacy and Numeracy Fest, so we had both together. This was so the earlier one for classes was for classes 1 to 8 Nagaland Reading Festival, but then the Nagaland Literacy and Numeracy Fest was for pre-primary to class 5, to strengthen Nipun Bharat Mission. So we had guided projects for school heads, we had projects for pre-primary teachers, literacy and numeracy teachers. So we sort of conducted this in 4 cycles over a period of 5 months. So these 4 categories of teachers, the school heads, the pre-primary teachers, the literacy teachers, the English teachers, and then those who are teaching math, were given tasks which they had to complete during each of the cycle. And then they sort of submitted what we call evidence-based reports to the state team, which sort of further went through and shortlisted the best ones and figured out what is it that, I mean, what are the learnings from the districts that we can now implement across the state. These projects varied according to the category of teachers. And then, for example, school heads sort of completed tasks like organizing teaching learning material exhibition for the parents and the community, organizing parents teachers meeting, and something that Bihar has done phenomenally well for parents of students in the age groups of 4 to 9, the target classes, setting up libraries and so on. Pre-primary teachers were given tasks that were theme-based, through which they conducted fun learning activities for the kids. Language and numeracy teachers were given tasks that involve making TLMs, conducting reading and phonetics-based activities, helping kids understand the concept of addition, subtraction, etc. Because this is not just, so when you're talking about addition or subtraction or division, multiplication, I mean, most people, including myself, we were never sort of taught the whole idea or the concept per se. I mean, it was more like, okay, you thought, okay, this how we're supposed to add, this how we're supposed to subtract, but then what does it mean actually in real life? So that's the kind of learning, that's the kind of activities that are being conducted, so that kids have a holistic learning, and then whatever they learn, they tend to keep in their mind, and they don't forget. Because I mean, at the end of the day, rote learning is something that'll have to be done away with. I mean, every single the national education policy, every single committee that we've had, be it in states and Government of India, talks about moving towards moving away from rote learning and eventually moving to competency-based assessments. So we'd also use Google's read along app to help the children lead better. This one witnessed even better participation than the first micro improvement program. We had 8,568 projects submitted. I mean, that's a huge number for a state like Nagaland. The evaluation process is ongoing as we speak. So this has been particularly effective for, because the school heads and the teachers have been able to sit down and think about what can you do with what you have, and rather than asking someone else for this or that resource so that you can make improvements. And it also has been able to streamline their thoughts and streamline the process so that the learning needs of their the children in schools is taken care of. So I think I've taken a lot of time, but that's broadly what we've been doing with our own approach towards the micro improvement paradigm. So over to over to you, Ms. Shruti.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I would just like to add that apart from, I mean, there's a lot that we achieved which was not even intended. For example, community engagement with these micro improvement projects is something that I personally found to be one of those areas where we did not really intervene. So that was one thing that I would like to add. Very similar to Nagaland, Sajjan sir, even in Bihar, we have been using micro improvement approach to focus on the priorities. We were talking about teacher training, and I know that Bihar is currently running a project-based learning program, which is at the juncture of curriculum, pedagogy, and teacher training. So would like to understand your why of micro improvement, as well as what this program is all about and how micro improvement approach in the program.
Yeah. One thing that immediately comes to mind is the the Vidya Amrit Mahotsav under that program. There have been more than expected number of teachers who showed interest in this particular program. So more than 80,000 teachers had participated. They were encouraged to showcase any innovation that they do in the class environment, class school ecosystem. So even let it be on the smallest to more grandiose. The teachers have shown extreme interest with their recording their activities in their mobile and uploading it on Diksha. So this shows that people are it is an opportunity. It has become a forum for them to showcase themselves in the, like, now people, like, they share it in Facebook and Instagram to get more likes. So this is a place. This is another such forum that people are told that your innovations will be seen by people sitting in the state or in the country, sitting in Delhi or Patna. Other states also will be able to view. So people are teachers are naturally encouraged. And as Sir rightly pointed out, the parent-teacher meeting (PTM), which has been initiated by the previous ACS, and fortunately it is successfully going on in a regular manner. So this is one way of communicating with the parents. This is the best way of communicating with the parents. We can't expect the parents of people of lesser means to have an Android mobile and be in a WhatsApp group, or be even expect to know to how to operate the apps, or the read the messages or through any other means. So we can realistically only expect to communicate with them through calling them to school, speak to them about the performance of their children, what we expect the parents to do, the responsibility of the parents. Parents, the way of communicating with the parents in a more systematic manner, having each Saturday for one particular grade of students in across schools, that keeps even the teachers accountable their parents to the education of their wards. So basically, parents have generally outsourced the education completely of their wards, outsourcing completely to the schools. They have to understand that it is a joint venture. It's not cannot be completely outsourced. Homework has to be followed up by the parents, only then the students will show interest, will be able to get on par with the other students. And different students have different learning levels. Sometimes, only seeing the mark sheet, seeing a lot of reds, the parents might get demotivated. The teacher it is the teacher's responsibility to handhold such students. So there is a lot of things we can build a lot on this micro improvements, right? So yeah, I mean there are a lot more, but I feel this is one thing that we have been doing well, which a lot more to be done. So I hope we take it forward even more in this particular year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the future journeys of both the states in terms of micro improvement. I have personally heard, I mean, I remember a story from Bihar's PTM where there was this child who was pulling her mother through hand to go to the PTM. And then I think a similar story of change that I've seen in Nagaland is that of the award ceremony that was organized for Nagaland Reading Festival, recognizing those 15 teachers and school leaders in front of the entire state. I think that the confidence and motivation that we talk about building in those teachers, I think that is another forum. One is the forum for parents to send their children to school. Another is for teachers to realize that the work they do have value and it is appreciated. Um, uh, the experiences, stories that you have shared today are remarkable stories of change. Before we end the conversation, there's one last question from my side. I wanted to know if there are any tips that you would like to give to other states in adopting the micro improvement approach. And if yes, then what would those be? And why would you?
Tavaselan sir, if you could
Yeah, okay, sure, buddy. Sure, buddy. Thanks. So,
Oh, yes.
give any advice to Bihar, that would be very
that's funny. I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job there. So,
only the quantity is bigger, but the work actually we'd be very happy to know what Nagaland is also doing, so we could do it in a more wider scale actually.
So I think one thing that I'd sort of suggest is, but in case that if it's not already being planned, is do something similar to what we've done for the reading festival and the literacy and numeracy fest. I mean, there's something that we found it to be very useful, and it's been very effective. Kids have sort of taken to learning. In a much better manner when it's being done through activities with a lot of fun involved and not just monotonous classroom based instruction. So this is something that you can explore, and I'm sure it'll have wonderful results in Bihar. So that's one piece of sort of advice that I could share with you. In terms of Ms. Shruti's question on what is what's the advice that we have for other states? I think if you my personal sense is this is going to be the future to a great extent, because every school has its own set of every state has its own set of challenges, and they have very unique problems um, specific to their context. So given that situation, and given that no state, I mean, even the most industrialized states still have things to complete when it comes to the school education ecosystem. Not everyone has been able to get there, and it'll always be a work in process. It's never going to be enough. So how can we, so ultimately all of us are working towards a singular objective. How do you ensure that the learning outcomes are superior? So if that is the situation, how can you sort of, given all the constraints that we operate in, even in Nagaland, there's some schools which are doing extremely well, have a lot more resources than it could be because the community has come in and contributed. It could be because the state government has sort of prioritized building infrastructure there, given the large enrollment. There will always be other schools where there'll be a lack. So I think if someone can sort of, there can be a fundamental shift in the mindset of teachers and school administrators. When they sort of get used to the power of micro improvements, no matter where they post it, they'll always figure out issues, and then move to so from being someone who is looking externally for solving their problems, they'd adopt a problem solvers approach and then start solving issues that they're facing on a daily basis, and that eventually is going to drive kids' learning outcomes. And I think for me personally, that's going to be the way. I mean, when we started, we did have some challenges in terms of, how do you sort of disseminate the information? How do you effectively monitor? How do you stick to the timelines? They've always been there've been some challenges. I mean, but we've been able to overcome all of them effectively thanks to the brilliant support that we had from Shiksha Lokam. And there are always organizations which are willing to help us out at zero cost to the government. So reach out, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who are willing to help you out. Be open to sort of external help, not just looking at opportunities or help from within the school education ecosystem. Be open to external help. That's something that's proven to be a game changer for us, and likely to be the same in the future as well. And once this has once we've seen that this has happened at the school level, the community has been stepping up their game and helping out in a much larger manner. Parents are becoming more engaged with their kids' education. Or like what Sajjan said, at a certain point, parents were, I mean, they just left it to the school to take care of the kids. But then once you start involving them and understanding what is it that an involved parent and an involved community can make, what difference it can bring to learning outcomes for kids, I think that'll be a revelation for them, and that'll only strive them to do even better. And it's going to be a positive, virtuous cycle. So that's my limited take on how do you sort of use micro improvements in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. If no, I don't think I can actually there's something that I can actually advise. The advice would be a very too strong of a word, but maybe I have a feeling the school has to function in keeping a very you should know where to draw the limits of the developing the education. Also, it should not moral education is important, spiritual education is important, but it should see to that it does not interfere in the family life, in the students' own life. So the school education can become very complex when you start thinking about it, and it requires real wisdom. Whoever is sitting and making policies to look through the what is provided and what is proposed, and look through it and see what the potential problems that can arise, and inculcate the best of other states, other countries, other modes of education. So yeah, that is what I feel, that we should move cautiously and with momentum towards the future. And especially be careful while we make policy making. We can adversely affect the future of many children. So a little bit more caution would be much appreciated.
Thank you, sir, for your real and raw thoughts. I think these are very helpful for us to understand what the leadership is also thinking. Just wanted to conclude, because we are already quite over time. I'll quickly conclude. Really enjoyed this conversation on what the priorities of both the states are, despite the differences, or I wouldn't call them differences, but despite different priorities. There has also been this approach that both the states have followed in terms of making possible whatever can happen. So we're not looking at, oh, the goal is so far away and we cannot achieve it. Both the states and their leadership, you have aligned your vision to what is possible currently and wherever your states are. And I think that is, and you have led different micro improvement programs. And as Sajjan sir, you pointed out, you talked about how micro improvement approach you can think of in your different initiatives as well. You were referring to many initiatives in different domains that you're focusing on. And Thavaselan sir, you talked about how Nagaland has very, very concertedly focused on FLN and used micro improvement approach. And I hope both of your states will also be looking at the approach in the future. And we could also see the personal wise that you have for the approach. Very, very thankful to both of you for giving your time from your busy schedules. I mean, we took more than an hour actually. And your inputs and contributions are very, very valuable to us and our audience. That's all from us then.